Okay, my next question for us is, who was your least favorite guest? No, I'm just kidding.
Beef alarm.
Me. Beef alarm.
How to be patient.
Welcome back to How to Be Patient. And this is our season 3 wrap-up episode. Preston,
Finale.
how do you feel?
It's a wrap.
Finale.
Yeah.
How do you feel having done 3 seasons of our podcast?
I feel like my lunch, which was a cold chicken wrap from Chick-fil-A. 'Cause I'm all wrapped up and excited to go finito mode.
We have made 60, I think this is the 63rd episode. And we started talking about this podcast. You started thinking about this podcast with Will of Dr. Glaucomflecken fame around 2 years ago now. And we started talking about it in June 2024. Is that right? No.
Yeah, I think we were dreaming of this around fall of 2024. We started recording winter 2025, released our first episode.
Didn't we start recording August?
I guess we started recording late 2024 and then released.
Well, it was June when you had asked me, and then we had the meeting with Human Content in August, and then started recording, and then started releasing January 2025. Right?
Yeah. I guess we did that whole fall. So it was fall of my PGY2. Wow,
yeah.
It's been quite a journey. 60 episodes.
I know you're going to be a 4th year. You have your fellowship confirmed. You started this at the end of 1st year. I will be mid-fellowship right soon. And
you'll be like a month out when this comes out.
Oh, that's true.
On the halfway point.
That's true. So today's episode is like our other wrapped episodes. Did you ever watch the show Unwrapped on Food Network?
I have not.
I feel like you would have liked it.
It sounds good.
It was one of my favorite shows. It's like how it's made, but for different common foods. Anyway, today's episode, we're going to talk about our kind of reflections on this season, what we learned, what we felt like you guys liked or didn't like, and then kind of hopes and logistics for season 4. Preston, do you have any objections to this?
No, but I may have some. It depends on where we want to take season 4. So right now I'm in full support.
Amazing. Okay, well, one of our first points maybe to talk about is what episode we liked the best making. I think we can also say what one we liked the outcome, but I feel like sometimes the process behind the scenes for both of us of actually learning about planning or outreaching to people for episodes is its own process that people don't see. And so my first question for us is, what episode did you like making the most this season?
Well, I think that a lot of the season has been teaching me how to podcast well. I think before I even started a pod, I thought, oh, you just yap and have fun and be cool and be relaxed. And that's a big part of it. But you also have to structure the conversation of an episode to flow in a certain narrative. And I think the hard thing about looking at topics that you find interesting and then connecting them to a podcast episode is figuring out where you can excavate the story and what level of detail you want to enter. So I think that's a skill I'm proud of, which is learning how to take a paper or something in the news and turn it into an episode. And I guess my favorite one in that regard is the coffee, tea, and dementia episode. I had a lot of fun with that one. I enjoyed reading the paper at the beginning, but then I could think about how I can block this into a good conversation where hopefully people have fun listening along and then also get something out of it. And it carries, it can kind of stand on its own. It's a fun conversation about a piece of literature. So I'd say that was probably the best behind the scenes one for me. I haven't been looking as hard about the post-credit situation on too many of these.
On too many, but you're once they're out there, they're out there.
Yeah, you just stress yourself out about seeing all the responses. Feedback is good to look at, but I think the best way to make this sustainable is just to make an episode and then get ready for the next one.
No, I agree. I think you know this. You're going to be able to predict this, but I felt very proud of the AI, Your Brain on ChatGPT, Your Brain on AI episode, where we had the MIT researcher and lead author of that paper actually come on and talk about it. We've talked about this on the podcast, and Preston and I talk about this. One of my long-standing hopes of many for this podcast is that it also becomes something where we can have primary researchers on, and not just people who are in the like public sphere because they have a book coming out or because they're like someone who has some like controversial stance, but the actual people who have dedicated like decades of their life to the work that is being either quoted correctly or misquoted. And so the other part of it was just like cold emailing and actually getting a response back was really fun for me.
Yeah. I remember how
It's
excited
just-
you were when you found that lead.
I-
Yo, we got this big, we got a big hitter coming straight to the Thunderdome.
I was like, we got a big fish. They're coming to the small pond. Um, like Time interviewed them, but we got them. Yeah. So I think it's such a relevant topic. It's an episode that like did well. But I think it just combines so many things that are elements I like that we're trying to do with the podcast and your episode as like a journal club-ish one on the coffee, tea, and dementia. I also really liked because I thought it also the way you planned it not only was helpful in unpacking the paper, but also showing the thought process of like what a journal club is like from the inside. Because not everyone has access to actually being in like, especially in like hyper specialized, we're going to debate as psychiatrists, or we're going to like look really closely at this of how to apply it or how to think about it or where to go next. And I just think that process part of it is also like a really important way of understanding how we understand data and evidence and apply it.
And even just putting stuff into layman's terms, I think has so much value. We've been having like a lot of research symposium days and research clubs at UT recently, and so there's a lot of abstracts floating around, I guess I would say, and there's so much fuzzy, inaccessible language out there when like the core question and the coffee tea dementia paper actually was very straightforward, but sometimes it's really hard to distill like what are we actually talking about here. So it's really helpful to have people like discuss it on the pod and say like, yeah, actually, all they're looking at is does drinking coffee increase your risk for dementia or not?
Right.
Like
Right.
we don't need to make it any more complicated than that. And there's a lot of papers where it's you need almost like a foot in the door in the specialty to be able to say the punchline.
Yeah. Because I think that's the problem. And I don't think that this is like, it's not like MDs are always great about this online either, where it at any level of education, unless you are like a PhD in the actual field and you're publishing, so you actually are very aware of like the places in the field where questions are versus answered things. It can be very easy to step out of your lane inappropriately and be like, we have this paper. And so I'm a doctor. Here's 3 ways I tell my patients to apply it. And sometimes those are right. And sometimes they're dead wrong. And it's actually almost worse than someone who's not leading in with, I'm a doctor and.
Yeah. I'm a psychiatrist, and these are my top 3 skincare tips. Get ready to dive in with me.
Start washing your face if you're depressed. Get your depression treated.
Yeah, it's like we know that dirty faces are associated with depression. So I think your dirty face is causing your depression.
I mean,
New La Roche-Posay antidepressant line coming out soon.
antidepressant. I mean, there are those people who have done the studies on Botox for depression and then are like, I'm a psychiatrist that does Botox for depression. And I will say, the people who are actually doing the research and think this might be legitimate, I have respect for the people doing the research. What I don't have respect for necessarily is not me causing public beef. Like, I don't have respect for people who
Beef.
are like
Beef
not
alarm.
that in beef alarm. We actually should have that for season 4. The theme for season 4 is just causing problems and causing fights.
And it's like it's a cow mooing. That's the beef alarm.
Oh, I love it. But like, I don't know. It's easy to take something and then like be like, here's my specialized program based on the research, or here's my like Botox. I have this one study that hasn't been validated, whatever. And now I just run a Botox clinic as a psychiatrist. Like,
And I tell everyone science says. Science says I'm right.
researchers say, which researchers? Like, um, but yes, okay. So those are our ones. So, okay, a theme also though from that might be continuing to think about these aspects of journal clubbing, going to the
Love
journal club
clubbing.
to club.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In season 4. And also I think part of the things we've talked about before, we haven't really done this as much, is like having like shorter snippets where it's like if we're talking about a broader topic and we figuring out a way to have someone on for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes of an episode to talk briefly about a paper or something, that like not every episode has to be the entire thing on it.
hmm
And kind of thinking about ways to put episodes together differently that could be interesting.
Yeah, like we could even do like some people don't have the time to go on a podcast for an hour and a half, but they might have time for a 10-minute phone call.
Yeah.
So we call them, record the call, and then we bring them in and kind of react to the conversation and talk about it from there.
Yeah,
I
like a
think that could be a
segment.
great like paradigm.
Yeah. Like, you're talking to Delilah on the air. Who do I have with me tonight? Solo in Seattle.
Delilah, is that who you're referring to?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, my mom, she would always play like light rock hits, and Delilah would come on the air. I remember when I was in the summer of early 2000s.
Okay, my next question for us is, who was your least favorite guest? No, I'm just kidding.
Beef alarm.
Me. Beef alarm. No. Any feedback that we got from listeners or from like the metrics on different episodes that you found surprising this season, like either that did well or that seemed to resonate, or ones were like, especially ones we led, that seemed to be like less of interest to people?
I think I am more surprised by how interested people are in things that I would expect to be benign or innocuous. Like we'll do a whole episode, and then the like top comment will be, "I want to learn more about Preston's plants." And I'm like, right, maybe I should talk more about my plants. like I think I underestimate how interested people are in our lives. So I think that tickles me, that like it feels like y'all not only care about what we're talking about, but you care about us. And that's just, I don't know, it's powerful to me. So I just, for all the listeners who've been here from day 1 or day 62, or I guess now day 63, just thanks for being here and caring, because I think that's really what keeps us doing this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd just be talking to my cat in an office with an unplugged microphone, which is therapeutic. Like, don't get me wrong, there's value to
Season
voicing
4
things
preview.
into the ether, but it's nice when the ether speaks back, you know?
Um, I think I remember us talking about this now almost 2 years ago, and you thinking about the podcast before I was like gonna be a part of it, and talking about like, well, what can I bring to it? Like, how do I make it? Like, you asking like, what is the kind of feeling that you wanted to make it then? And I remember saying to you, and I can't remember, I feel like you liked what I said, but it also vaguely pissed you off. I was like, well, like people already have up to date. So like it doesn't need to be like a psychiatry topic review and not personality at all. Like, people like you, like people aren't following you because they're like, this is where I can find 20 facts in a row about depression. They're following you because they like the stories and the personality and the way that you say it. Um, and so I think that like those comments that are kind of about these other little parts are a reflection of that, of like, there's a relational way of knowing, even through a podcast, even in a parasocial way, that makes the whole thing more interesting, because like I know it through the eyes of Preston or Dr. Roche. Like, and I want to know more about this person who is the eyes that I'm seeing through. An I, thou situation.
Mhm. An eye. An eye
I
for an
an
eye.
eye for an eye makes the whole world a podcast. No. Um,
So yeah, if you're listening, you're in a parasocial relationship with us. But hopefully it's like kind of a platonic, chill, parasocial relationship where I'll just kind of hang out, chit chat, you know?
the ones that I was surprised at people's, not surprised at, I guess, but like you were the one driving the existential like 4-part thing, but I think I didn't expect, I thought people would like it, but I didn't expect them to like it as much as they did. Like, I feel like people were actually very into those episodes and were like,
Common
I
theme
want
for
to know
Preston's
this.
ideas.
What?
The Margaret saying, I knew people would like it, but they liked it more than I thought they
That
would.
is not true. I support a you-led podcast. 2 years ago, I was like, yeah, you should do this. It's great. So miss me with that bullshit. But I don't know. I didn't expect people who are like listening and are like healthcare workers. I don't know. It feels similar to how they responded to the psychodynamic episode. That's like, I want to know more about this. And I guess
Mhm.
I just think like, maybe in my mind, I think of our listeners as like, we are healthcare workers who want to have a laugh and want to be funny, and want to understand better how to make this all work. But like, I don't know, kind of like how you used to talk about like psychodynamic thinking. That's like, okay, we're kind of straying away into a big world of like what ifs and abstractions. And does it actually matter?
Yeah, and like I remember everyone really loved your ACT episode that you led, and I think most people in the general, even like mental health space, are familiar with CBT and supportive psychotherapy and kind of like general coping skills. Even ACT is kind of off the beaten path a little bit, and everyone kind of loves that. Like we're not reviewing the front page like basic stuff, and a little like niche deep dive is I think it's what makes you want to learn a little bit more. And at least you're like hopefully being led by something that's like mildly entertaining along the way. So I think that's the thing, like psychodynamic, existential, like they're just far enough off the beaten path that you probably wouldn't explore it yourself, but you'd go with someone else. You go with a tour guide, you know?
Yeah. No, I like that. Um, was there anything doing the existential series that you feel like before you did it versus after has impacted you and like kind of committing to it in a way for like 4 episodes and then staying with the material in a different way?
Mm, it was so from my perspective, this was kind of like a book club for me. It felt like a class, you know, when you have
Yeah.
reading for a class that's due.
Mhm.
Existential psychotherapy is like an 8 or 900 page book. And like each section is like 300 pages. So I'm like, okay, I have 2 weeks on top of work to read like 350 pages and then try to summarize this into like an hour and a half podcast where we can like talk about the main points. So I was like, every morning I was listening to it on audiobook, like during my runs or driving to work. And then I would like come and like actually read the book when I got home. So I think like it was just
How are the image of you like making your coffee and then it's like existential psychotherapy is playing in the background is like extremely like romantic in the classical term romantic. Like it's like I'm listening to my existentialism as I make my espresso.
okay. Let me
And I like the vibe's good.
let me grab the book right now, and I just
Yeah,
want
do
I'm
it.
gonna open up a random page, and I want you to pretend that I'm the audiobook and you're making coffee listening to this.
Okay. I'm ready for it.
Actually, Margaret, pick a oh, sorry, it's not 700 pages. It's big, so it feels like it's only 500.
He's like, it's 12,000 pages long and the font
Dude,
is size 6.
every time I tell the story, we
The
add like
book gets
another
bigger.
couple hundred pages. Yeah.
Page 323.
323. Let's see what we got. Okay,
Turn
imagine
your
your morning
hymnals to
coffee opening up to
323
this.
to sing.
For example, a schizoid affect stifled patient had for many years decided not to make any effort to change. Change, for reasons not germane to this discussion, was a terrifying prospect for him, and consequently, he refused to commit himself to therapy and carved out a muted, isolated life for himself. Viewed objectively, his choice lay between pervasive intra and interpersonal isolation and a more spontaneous and expressive affective life. To continue in the decision not to change, the patient distorted the options available to him and devalued the unchosen alternative and overvalued the chosen one. He viewed affect suppression as dignity or decorum and spontaneity as animalistic loss of control, where he would run the risk of being overcome by rage and tears. And I'm like, do I want elderflower syrup or vanilla syrup? Probably both. And then the next line is like, all humans will inevitably die.
And
It
you're
is
like,
hard to
what?
confront this fact. And then I'm like, okay, Maggie, off to work.
I feel
That-
like last year I like listened to Nancy McWilliams' psychoanalytic diagnosis and treatment. And it was similarly where I'd be like walking like along the Charles and it'd be like, what does a true schizoid attachment mean according to the object relations theorist? And it was just like your brain just like eventually is like, boop, 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 boop. It's not there anymore.
Sometimes it feels like a cheese grater on your frontal lobe, you know? And it's
Yeah.
just gray matter zest coming out of your ears. You're like, what? Wow. I'm not sure if I'm getting smarter or getting dumber, but change is happening.
It's the brain version of a workout. You're like,
Yeah.
I have done the correct amount of damage so that when this heals up again, it's gonna be lit.
Brain
It's gonna be
hypertrophy.
stronger
That's what
than
I'm doing
ever.
right now. That's actually why I take creatine. It's so my brain recovers harder than it did before.
That was my favorite Patreon one. The one where you were making coffee and I was making my like shitty creatine.
Oh yeah, that was so funny. We get we get like 5 minutes into the Patreon and I'm like doing my coffee routine and Margaret's just like, do I just keep watching you or and I was like, oh
I was
yeah.
silent. You were
You
talking as
can
like
make, you can make something too if you want.
no, you did not. We have Jason play the recording here. You said, yeah, you just watch and you listen. I can't believe I'm having to just sit here and watch you. And then I got up and then I said, I also have something too. It's like fruit
Creatine go
punch flavored
crazy.
creatine, almost definitely made for high school boys, but I enjoy the fruit punch flavoring as well.
Yeah. So what I don't know. What was your feedback that you found interesting or reactions that you saw that were strange or unexpected?
Loved the Spotify comments section continuing to grow. Love that. In terms of strange, I think I'm just like I can't predict ever like what will get more reactions or like making I think we've talked about this before, but like making a podcast is so weird because like there are like some comments on like the YouTube and Spotify and we'll get DMs and other stuff like so there's like scatterings of reactions, but for the most part, and like this is how I listen to podcasts too, is it's not like a TikTok where like people comment and you're like very aware of how they feel about it all the time. Like most people I think do listen to podcasts and then they go about their day.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. It continues to be interesting how it comes back to us. And like sometimes it's direct with like the comment section, right? But other times it's like I'm rounding in the hospital and I see someone and they're like, oh, I saw a clip of, the episode you did with Mark Mullen on TikTok. Like, and I listened to the episode. I liked that you guys talked about whatever this. And so very much like right now, filming, at our separate apartments, homes, whatever, weeks before we release an episode, it just feels like throwing something out into the world and being like, okay, go have fun out there. But like, we don't really know what's happening with it or how it's getting to people. And then it coming back in unpredictable ways is just kind of like fun and interesting and I guess it's not serendipitous, but it's interesting to feel it come back to you.
Yeah, it's like throwing a paper airplane or a boomerang.
Mhm.
But I've never been good at predicting the path of a boomerang,
Yeah.
you know?
But do you need to? Like, that's kind of the joy of it is like that it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know where this is like we're making something and sending it out into the world. And then like, I don't know where it goes and lives and who hears it and what it either pisses someone off or makes them think and likes it, like whatever. And then comes back to us because someone else told them another person listened to it.
Pisses someone off. Beef alarm.
Beef alarm. Yeah. But like, as a creative person, which we both are, I don't know. It's like a really gratifying experience to be like you made something and it landed somewhere. Like some other human took something from it.
Yeah, it's cool to know that your ideas landed in between someone else's ears and they care
Yeah.
enough to tell you. So thanks for liking it and then telling us.
Thanks for
Guys,
listening.
we appreciate it.
If it
And
pisses you
gals.
off. Love to start a beef. Someone start a beef with us. Well, yeah, actually I'm willing to say it at this point in making this. We challenge any other psychiatry or psychotherapy podcaster listening here to start a pretend beef with us. Don't lie about anything. But I want you to make something so ridiculous that it almost feels like it could be real.
Yeah. And then join our step challenge and try to beat Mags.
How many steps is
Because
she at this
we
point?
are really struggling out here. She's at 621,000 steps.
In how many days?
And we have
Weeks?
6
It's been
days
like a month,
left.
right?
Yeah, it's in like 25 days she did that.
Well, she's going to be the host of this podcast. She has won the podcast from us
Yeah,
for
actually,
season 4.
it's like racing for pink slips, and Mags just kind of cooked us. So yeah, if you're gonna beef with us, you got to step it out. That's all I was gonna say.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. The only person who is more stressed out by our medical training than us is our moms, because they hear every single bad test, every question mark around admissions, and every bad night call. And this Mother's Day, I want to celebrate my mom by giving her an anxiety relieving, comforting gift like she gives me. But this time it's going to be from Cozy Earth.
Sometimes we want to say more than thank you, and this time, a great bathrobe and slippers is going to be our way of saying thank you for putting up with us all this time.
One of the great things about Cozy Earth is that everything that they make has a 10-year warranty or 100-night sleep trial. So just like your mom was there through all 100 nights of night shift that you went through, so will your Cozy Earth robe and slippers.
Yeah, and you can get those nights back, unlike the night shift. So let this Mother's Day be a reminder that she deserves care too. Discover Cozy Earth and how it turns routines into moments of softness and ease. Head to cozyearth.com and use our code PATIENT for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, make sure you let them know that we sent you.
Because home starts with mom. We talked about this season. So now we take a step into the future and we talk about next season. Preston,
The future.
do you have any hopes or thoughts or inclinations for season 4?
Or dreams.
Or dreams, yeah. Phantasms.
I was going to say dream analysis be a fun topic
That actually
to
would
go
be
over.
fun.
Yeah, we were talking about that in supervision the other day. You have to examine the unconscious and the conscious, like resistance in the patient. And the best way to examine unconscious resistance is dreams.
Should we read On Dreams by Freud next?
That would
Next
be
season?
fun. Yeah, and
I don't know
then
how long it is.
we'll do our own dream journals, and that will be the icebreaker for those episodes. Is talking about a weird dream we've had.
Do you dream a lot?
Yeah, recently I've been having pretty vivid dreams.
I feel like I don't dream very much. I think I'm just gone for those 8 hours, but which we can analyze in season 4.
Yeah, not dreaming. That's worth its own. That's worth its own interpretation. So this Margaret, as she enters the more busy throes of fellowship, she's going to be taking a brief break during season 4. So this will be kind of new territory for me. So I'll be kind of flying solo for some of the episodes, and I think I might try to do one completely by myself. I usually like to have people to bounce off of, but that would be a fun growing opportunity for Preston. So I think I'll be looking forward to that. And then I'm just kind of throwing around like my own ad lib ideas. You try stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you threw the boomerang.
Exactly. And I came back to you. Yes. As Preston said, I'm not abandoning, not leaving you guys, but I'm in a very, very busy period right now in terms of call and fellowship. And we've been doing this, like we said, for 2 years. And so I'm taking a little break just to focus on feeling like better about my like patient load and panel load and trying to get things kind of settled in fellowship and feel a little bit less overwhelmed day to day. I think we've talked about burnout ad nauseum, and probably our listeners can tell over if you like listen back to the episodes during our check-ins that I have been a little bit more stressed this year. And so taking a little step back from the podcast just to kind of hopefully resettle and feel a little bit better and more skillful at balancing some of my clinical work before coming back for season 4.
Yeah, and it's the only way that content creation or podcasts are sustainable is if you're enjoying it while you're doing it. And if you're so like worn down and burning the candle at both ends, then you're just there's somebody who said about making bad art, but maybe very bad art when you're tired and worn down. It's like, maybe step back a little bit, and
Yeah.
recuperate. Let's get back to bad art.
Yeah. I think it's also like I do think the podcast is a creative process and it's also work. And so I feel like the first I don't know, I think the burnout and like the level of stress of trying to figure out how to do an entirely different type of psychiatry, which is just like a very different pattern of emotional containment for very different set of also social circumstances compared to when I was treating adults and when I was in fourth year, which was super duper chill the first season, the first like 2 seasons. Um, I think having capacity again and hopefully like this break will let me get into a better pattern of like not of actually like resting and not feeling like I'm burning the candle at both ends, that then that creative part comes back for me.
Hmm. And like, who knows? Maybe in a year and a half, when Preston's in fellowship and Margaret's in attending,
That's
uh,
crazy.
I'll be on a break. Like, who knows? So yeah, the seasons of change, they're going to happen regardless, and we're just kind of entering a new one.
Yeah. Topics I'm thinking about though for season 4. I think I would like to do a little bit more of psychoanalytic or psychodynamic. Like we were talking about, people like those episodes. And so that and ACT, I have lots of things we could talk about with them.
Mhm.
But I think if people want more depth on our understanding of those things, like I think there are creative ways to figure out, and like people always love the role plays. So figuring out ways to show different therapy concepts, I think would be fun.
Yeah, I think it could be really so. Like a lot of those, like kind of famous, almost founding father esque therapists, like Jung and Rogers and Freud, they have tons of cases that they've written up. So I think it could be fun to like let's say I bring a case of like from one of Carl Jung's old notes, and I just essentially introduce the case to you like I'm presenting it to you, and then you can like psychoanalyze the patient and give your interpretation of it, and then I can give mine, and then we can see what Jung said about the patient. Like I think that could be pretty interesting because then it's like we're now taking these kind of floating concepts. We've touched on a lot of different therapy modalities, but then getting to anchor them in like actual patient scenarios that they're not like really HIPAA anymore because they're like 80 years old
They're already out
and
there. Yeah.
yeah, then they've been out there. Yeah. It's public domain. So I think that could be fun to imply our different interpretations onto to like real genuine stories. I think I also want to do more journal clubs. I think it's helpful to keep people in touch with what's happening in the world. I was talking to one of my friends who she just recently graduated psychiatry residency, and she said, "Yeah, like I enjoyed listening to the pod. A lot of it felt kind of like entry level at first, but she was like, I really liked the coffee tea and dementia one because like I wasn't familiar with that. So
Yeah.
they're like even for like the more expert listeners, us going through the ABCs may be helpful for people just armchair level interested in mental health, but new papers are coming out all the time and you can't read everything."
The other thing I think that I would like to do more is like still with some depth, but like more nuanced cases around prescribing for different like clinical presentations. So like someone talking about like complex PTSD and prescribing for someone who is like that comorbid with OCD, or like someone who you're like really not sure if there's like a bipolar diathesis for, and they also have ADHD. How do you think about prescribing stimulants for someone who may be at risk for mania, but the actual risk hasn't been like clearly seen as mania? I feel like talking about clinical cases and like those both like what are the basics of prescribing or what is the current like evidence-based clinical guidelines, and then saying like here are 3 cases that are like kind of notoriously difficult ones in this subset of population. I think giving more pharmacologic actual like guidance is something I'd like us to incorporate more, because I think we've not done very many, honestly, like clinical guidance on prescribing episodes.
Yeah. I think I get nervous about those just because this is not medical advice. And so sometimes Like,
yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking about like
and
psychiatry and
there's a
psychotherapy.
yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, there's a line between like here are actually good, actionable like steps to take in this scenario, um, versus if you have X, do Y.
Yeah, like I think similarly with like the therapy vignettes, right? Like we give like a kind of gestalt of a situation that happens not infrequently, and then we respond to it and are like, here are ways you can think about navigating it. And I think with medication, especially because like a lot of our listeners might be like therapists or social workers or primary care who are like not prescribing all the time, and so understanding a little bit more on like why did this person do this
Mm.
for this OCD case that failed 3 trials of high dose antidepressants or something like that.
Yeah, like giving you guys the inside baseball on how a psychiatrist might think. If you want to know why they prescribe something, you gotta be the psychiatrist. You gotta
You
think
got to
like
put
them.
on
You gotta
tweed.
prescribe like them.
You got to drink. You got to get your cigar and get a
Yeah,
couch and think.
and a goatee.
Season 4.
Goatee's
That's you. Have you ever
optional.
had a goatee?
No, I think you'd cancel the pod if I got a goatee.
If you had a goatee? No, I think we would. I think I would. I don't think so. I think I would be like so impressed by your commitment to the bit that I would be like in awe.
Yeah, it would certainly garner attention. People are annoyed I shaved the mustache. It'll come back eventually, guys. You know,
The people are annoyed.
this is my canvas.
Like you have to accept me mustache. You have to accept me at my goatee for me
Mhm.
for you to deserve me at my mustache.
Exactly, guys. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any other thoughts about next season, this season, the process of making a podcast?
I want to get on the couch. I'm at my desk, and I need to
Mhm.
rearrange my apartment a little bit so I can record on the couch. It's my big goal.
It has been a good switch for me. Like it's just like I'm a person. I'm sitting on my couch. It has helped my burnout.
Yeah, I think pods are meant to be done on a couch. And I
You
think
should
what
get
I
like a
do,
full on one.
yeah. I was actually thinking about moving a couch into this office, but I think well, I'll just move my camera equipment to my living room. And yeah, when I moved to the East Coast at the end of residency, then maybe making my own like mini studio in my apartment. Like if I get a 2-bedroom, using the
Mhm.
extra one for that, I think that'd be fun. Because
Pretty cool.
then hopefully you'll be close enough that we could do the occasional in-person episode.
Yeah, and be like, "Hello, it's a filming day. We're in studio, coming to you live, taking calls."
Yeah, like if there's anything I remember learning from the Your Brain on AI episode was when we were talking about the different levels of interconnected like activity you get from layers of human interaction. So there's like a certain amount of mirror neuron response when you're just talking on the phone, and then that increases a little bit in the video, but that doesn't even compare to like a true organic in-person interaction. And it's like, darn, we're doing the best we can with the technology we have, but it could be even poddier. That's PODD as in more
I
podcasted,
Yeah,
podcastified.
no, I feel like I also like see podcasts now. I'm like, oh, it is nice that they're in the same place. Like that is like it definitely makes the dynamic flowier. Although I think we do a decent job from many miles away.
Yeah, I agree. I also think we do a decent job, but we can still be jelly of people that get to do it in person.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I feel like something I have enjoyed was like the exercise. I feel like you walking us through it. I feel like I learned or sharpened some of my like existential thinking, and like was also reminded of reading like Man's Search for Meaning and stuff, which I hadn't read in a decade, like since like the end of college. And so it was nice also just to like have that sharpened by you going through it and like I don't know, getting specific with some of the themes and how to approach it. And then it was cool that was interspersed with DBT. So I don't know. I'm also looking forward to what I might learn from you, learn from our audience. Sometimes the comments, like that Marsha Lenahan is alive and well. Once again, my bad. Uh,
See, if there was ever a beef to be started,
I do
that's the
not want beef
perfect
with
Tinder.
Marsha Lenahan. Like, Marsha, I feel she can fight, and I would not win. I I apologize. But like someone commented like that book like Childism, and I have been reading it, and it was something I'd not ever heard of, and it's great. And I'm like,
Wow.
thank you, listeners.
Thank you, random Spotify comment. You've saved my life.
You've saved me. Yeah, well, those are all my questions for the wrap up. Anything else you are thinking about, Preston, or want to share with our listeners before we give them a little bit of a break? There's always our other old episodes to go listen to.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. So
any other
thanks
thoughts
for
you wanna
being
add?
here. We're gonna season 4, just for our longevity and consistency, like instead of giving you guys a complete break, we'll be doing reruns of some of our old episodes. But we'll do like a commentary about them. We have a bank of like 60 episodes now, and if you join a little later, there's kind of some bangers early on when we were still a little bit more niche that I think it's worth revisiting and talking about again. So watch out for those. Watch out for the Preston solo episode and whatever half-baked or full-baked ideas that we
Full-baked.
bring out of the oven.
I'm excited for it. People have been asking for you to bring the hand puppet back. I'm excited to see what your creativity will do, like totally just like unleashed. You laugh. I'm serious. I think it'll be fun to
Yeah.
see.
The leash is coming off the puppet.
Leash. Fedora is on the leash.
hmm
Harmonica tuned.
I took the safeties off on the harmonica. It's fired up.
Fully loaded.
There's some other stuff we'll share later. We have some cool Preston related contents coming down the pipeline, but we won't share it on the episode today. That was a really annoying teaser. Like if you're ever in a conversation, someone's like, "Oh, we'll talk about it later, whatever. Don't worry about it." Like it's actually nothing to worry about. It's just we got some cool stuff coming that we'll talk about later. So how's the show? We always want to hear what you think. If you do have something to say it on Spotify, because that's our
Even if
favorite
it's
thing.
bullying us.
Yeah, no. Hatred, if it's just pure unadulterated vitriol, Spotify. If it's a
Spotify.
compliment, Spotify.
YouTube.
If you just want us to know about a book, Spotify. That's
Spotify. True.
it's on it. We like the Spotify comments. I don't know what to tell you.
It feels like when you would, I think I've said this before on the podcast, when you would like have a, like, we can't talk here, meet me in this Google document that we'll talk back on. We can't talk here, meet me in the Spotify comment section.
Not here. I'll find you later in the Spotify comments. Episode 42. If you want to have more from me, it's Presro on YouTube and TikTok. Margaret's at Bad Art Every Day on Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Thanks again for listening. We're your hosts, Preston Roche and Margaret Duncan. Our executive producers are me, Preston Roche, Margaret Duncan, Will Flannery, Kristen Flannery, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor and engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Benz-V. To learn more about our program disclaimer and ethics policy, submission verification, and licensing terms, and our HIPAA release terms, go to howtobepatient.com or reach out to us at howtobepatient@human-content.com with any questions or concerns. How to Be Patient is a human content production.
How to be patient.
Thank you for watching. If you want to see more of us, or if you want to see, this is Lilac, she's my cat. She's going to be waving her hand at one of the floating boxes, which will lead to more episodes. Lilac, point to the other episodes. Lilac doesn't know what the internet is, but I swear they're there. They probably exist for real. But in the meantime, I'm just going to pet Lilac, and then I'm going to go dance in the background.